press play. Don't pause.
All right, here we go, guys. This is what you've been waiting for, Comics Plus. My name is Zaka-san. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing swell. You probably want to know what I thought of the Batman. I just got home. It's about 12 a.m. now in the morning. I just got home thanks to a special fan preview, campaign preview. Special shout outs to Warner Brothers for hooking me up with an early access to watching this movie. It actually comes out in Japan next week, so I was going to be in some bit of a problem here if I didn't get to see this movie right away, right? And especially if I were going to see this on base or so with darkened screens. Nah, it just would not have been the same thing. But interesting enough, it might have. What do I want to tell you about the Batman? Okay, what can I say about it? You know, I'm going to be honest here with you guys, as I always am. You know, I'm not trying to do things for views or clicks or whatever, right? And I'm not trying to be controversial just because it is. I'm always going to give you my honest opinion, and that's just my opinion. It doesn't have to be your opinion. It doesn't need to match yours. Just know that it's always coming straight from my thoughts. I'm just thinking about when I first saw this trailer, this Batman trailer a few years ago for DC Fandom, right? A Fandom. And I remember those words of like, vengeance, and even the teaser of kind of like what we thought was kind of like Daredevil, things like that, and those four notes, dun 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 dun, just those four notes. I always thought it was going to be the beginning of something like super epic or something more, right? Then the Nirvana thing started kicking in, and that was pretty cool, right? Now, interesting enough, I didn't expect that to be the entire movie, though, or to hear those entire four notes. Hold on, let me pause the music in the background here. Just that don 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 don. The entire movie, most of the time, and I didn't exactly expect the pacing of the movie to also be that same sort of thing. Those are my biggest nitpicks or critiques of the movie, and I think rightfully so, is that the movie, it's long. It's 3 hours, and it felt like a 3-hour movie. Some people are going to really love that. Some people are going to really hate that. It's done as a very noir type of style, very art house ish type film, that, you know, we're supposed to really just be seeing like poetry in motion sometimes. But I would say, honestly, my honest opinion, it doesn't always seem that fluid either. There are times where I feel like there could have been something a little bit more about the comics sort of brought to life. Capes flapping, so to speak, you know, a sort of a romanticism with a vampiric type creature of the night, and it starts off very strong that way, and I was hoping we were going to see more of that. A lot of it this movie reminds me a lot of The Crow, Seven, the Batman animated series that some of you guys might know, The Batman, that one, right? There's a lot of influences, and particularly one of the things that I enjoy the most is the fact that the Tim Sale, Jeff Loeb sort of combination of The Long Halloween, and I believe it's called Year 2, I could be wrong, it's one particular one, the story with where Robin was first introduced in the comics, in terms of the Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale story. There's a lot, because I think the Catwoman is also... No, sorry. It's a Catwoman story about the Romeo, or something like that. But anyways, there's a lot of Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale influences in this particular story. And that part, I think, works well. It definitely feels a lot like a love letter to Christopher Nolan's work, with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, the entire Dark Knight trilogy, right? Gotham is there. I would say Gotham is more or less New York City in this particular version. That threw me off a little bit because it was very obvious that this particular Gotham City was literally based off of New York. There was the Gotham version of Madison Square Garden. There was a Gotham Times Square. And so that was I'm kind of mixed on that situation because I know it's been used before, but this one was very, very strikingly obvious and such. One of the things that also stood out to me a lot was the fact that honestly, I feel like with enough work, the Batman and the Joker, I mean, they're using the same fonts. They look like they could exist with a little bit of retooling or so. They look like they kind of exist within the same universe. And a friend of mine and I were kind of talking about this, is that maybe down the line they will just go ahead and merge the two to make this sort of synergy type of situation. But they were just filling things out just to see if we could in the future mix the two, because it's they're both shot. That's what's really interesting about the Joker and the Batman. These two movies that have come out recently is the fact that they remind you so much of other films, but at the same time, they do something to help the characters stand out and such. And I thought that was pretty good. Those were the very strong points of the movie that I liked, is the fact that, you definitely see that Reeves indeed did his homework, and you can tell which influences he was heavily pulling from. And he tried to also give a different take and spin and see more of the detective side of Batman, so to speak. This is something that has been critiqued back in the day a lot, is that fact that you never really saw Batman be a detective and such. I disagree with that a little bit based on, literally grafting fingerprints off a bullet, a shattered bullet in The Dark Knight was not detective work, but whatever. But you definitely see that there is this Seven sort of vibe, lots of creepiness. The Riddler, I think some people are really going to like him. Other people are going to, I laughed, to be honest. I'm being 100% honest here. There were just times where, like, he wasn't really, to me, he wasn't creepy. He just came off a little like incel, kind of like this odd incel TikTok influencer type of dude that's like, I swear he was gonna, I would love to see him and Kylo Ren in a Zoom call one day, and just to see have them both doing a try not to laugh challenge or something like that, because sometimes I feel like the Riddler was just going to be like, I want to give a shout out to all my other thugs out there. Keep Gotham strong. Like, that's I was just laughing sometimes, but he was meant, like, I'm familiar with the actor from There Will Be Blood. So, he was meant to kind of have that weird, sort of, if you ever seen this movie with Hugh Jackman called Prisoners, same sort of kind of vibe where you're just really creepy, not threatening creepy, but just like, okay, this is a dude that spent way too much time on the internet looking up how to build their own bombs and things like that. So that part was an interesting thing, but overall it sort of worked. The rest of the supporting cast themselves stood out. Most of them, unfortunately, I felt didn't really have enough time to get developed, which is weird in a 3-hour movie. I felt like some people were very not necessarily one-dimensional, but they're I don't know. It was weird. They were on screen, but they just weren't really there. And I would have to really go back and just see how many different people were showing up in this almost 3-hour movie. But it was weird. Falcone was around, you know, you had the Penguin there, but sometimes it just, I don't know. I don't know. It was interesting how they were bouncing around with a lot of different people, but I never really felt like, if anything, some of the side police officers seem to be getting more screen time and or more memorable moments for some reason. But what I will say is that Colin Farrell as the Penguin, for me, stole the show. Like, I thought he was great, and I loved this development, because to me, Colin Farrell really gave me the Penguin that I've been looking for. That sort of underground boss dude, and like if you've ever played the Telltale Arkham Knight series, I'm sorry, the Telltale Arkham games, there's a lot of influence I feel from that as well. So Gotham was explored very differently, but fairly recognizable at the same time. But you start to question yourself, why would anybody ever live in Gotham? Particularly with Matt Reeves, it's his version of Gotham. You know, with Nolan, there was some reasons, you know, but that was that. So that in itself is interesting. I felt like the movie definitely was somewhere in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Like, I feel like you could actually literally put the Batman in Batman Begins, right after Batman Begins, and would actually flow very, very well, because again, I saw this movie a lot as somewhat of a love letter to the Nolan verse sort of style, while still trying to do its own thing. You could still easily see where this would fit in year two or so, somewhere in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. And to answer this a long question, like, a lot of reviews have been coming out, and I was surprised by this. I was very surprised by this. Is this movie better than The Dark Knight, the most highly talked about, put on such a huge pedestal of comic, not just Batman movies, but comic book movies in general, the pinnacle of what every comic book movie needs to be, or is trying to be, The Dark Knight? Is this movie better than The Dark Knight? Well, I know what I'm gonna say, and I thought about this. Why are so many people saying this? I would say the main reason is because the reason so many people are putting this movie above The Dark Knight is because you actually get to see Batman in this movie. Whereas with The Dark Knight, I guess the big complaint from Batman fans, because I still think Dark Knight is still one of the best movies. You could take out Batman and a Joker, and you would still have a fantastic movie about Jim Gordon fighting the mob, right? So the Dark Knight is just a solid movie in general, outside of it being just a comic book movie. That's what makes it so special and unique, among other things, right? It was just perfect timing for everything. But one of the reasons I think so many fans, there's so many people saying this movie is better than The Dark Knight, is because you get more Batman. This movie is like 95% Batman. Bruce Wayne shows up a few times, and it really isn't that big of a difference. Like, he's there, but it's not like a whole bipolar situation or a different sort of personality or nothing. It's just, you know, this dude looks as creepy as ever. The trailers unfortunately gave a lot away. Most of the good moments of were in the trailers. There's a few other things going on, but yeah, that's kind of interesting in terms of the fact that it's a 3-hour movie, but the trailers essentially showed almost every big moment, it seems. There's a few other moments, and of course there's a whole thing with Riddler as well, but that's an interesting thing. I thought that was quite interesting, is the fact that you could actually just wherever. And I don't blame the trailer people for making the movie that would be like, because they didn't have a lot of action, I suppose, they didn't have a lot of moments to work with in terms of picking and choosing. So that's an interesting thing. So this movie is definitely a slow burn for sure. My biggest critique with this is the fact that the pacing, just the soundtrack itself, like, I'm kind of over the four. Like, I thought that the theme was gonna have a little more to it, but it's basically just the four notes, dun 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 dun, and to hear that plus Nirvana, which I thought was fine for the trailer, but to actually have it in the movie as well, in the extent of for almost every scene, was just and particularly every Batman scene, I was like, oh man, okay, well, all right, interesting, a little interesting. And then but yeah. But in terms of my personal opinion about this movie, I don't really want to rank it right now, because I know whatever I say, people are gonna try to body me in the comments and such. In terms of, like, I have an idea. I'm probably gonna watch it, maybe watch it one more time, maybe when it comes out officially in Japan next week. Maybe if my girlfriend wants to check it out, maybe I'll watch it one more time and see how that flows a second time. I think I liked No Way Home the second time I saw it more than the first time, believe it or not. I felt like there was something a little more emotional and such. Maybe I'll feel the same about this movie. I enjoyed it. It definitely has a lot of room for improvement. In my particular opinion, the pacing could have been a lot faster at times, and Batman could have walked a lot faster. It seemed like a lot of the movie he was just doing this dun 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 dun, dun. Just pacing in rooms like most of the movie, and I'm like, is this getting shot in like 15 frames per second or something like that? It was really interesting for that particular situation, but when things start going, it makes up for it. So I'm surprised at this particular movie. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be when we first saw it 2 years ago with the trailers and things like that. It ended up being a little different than I wasn't really expecting much, but just knowing Matt Reeves' body of work and the way he's talked about the Batman, I'm a little surprised. It went a little different than I was expecting, but at the same time, it was a nice little added benefit for just something. It's another addition to the great lore of Batman, and I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of future things this franchise will bring. Guys, Red Nation, stand up, speak up, let me know what you guys thought. Have you guys seen the Batman movie yet? I would love to know what your comments are, and then and your thoughts are on this movie. And let me know, maybe next week we'll do like a spoiler discussion, possibly, and see what's up. All right, I'll talk to you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.